Hey, what's up everybody? I'm here in beautiful Washington State. It's my first time here. I've been here for a few days. And I want to talk to you guys about the Nikon Z63 compared to the Z9 I've got over there. I've been shooting the Z9 for years now, and I'm very used to it. I'm very used to the bird eye tracking with it and what it's doing, how it works, how well it works when it fails, that sort of thing. And I've been really curious about how the Nikon Z63 pairs up to it. So I want to start by telling you my in the field thoughts. I've been shooting the Z63 for maybe a month now, and I've been shooting it a little bit more often lately. I've been using it more for mammals lately than birds, but I have had my fair share of birds with it as well. So first thoughts in the field, and I just know it's part of this is I'm just not as used to this Z63 yet, is I just feel like the Z9's better. I feel like the Z9's stickier. I feel like it works better further away. When I first got this, I just really didn't like it. It just felt like it was failing all the time, and I was photographing loons, which admittedly are a challenging subject on the water from a kayak, those sort of things. So I ended up reverting back to my Z9 where I was comfortable. I was getting what I wanted with it. But I've been using this more and more recently, and I'm getting more used to it, but it still just in the field doesn't quite feel as sticky as that. And it just doesn't feel like it's working as well. But I figured what better way of confirming if that is just in my head or if it's the reality than to try a little bit more of a stage setup. So I've got two things over here. I've got my little songbird guy, real tiny. You can see by the size of my hand, it's really, really small. And then I have a fake puffin here just for something larger and a little bit more substantial. It's black and white. It should be really easy for that thing to pick up contrast and shape and eye and stuff like that compared to especially that tiny bird that's a little bit more subtle. I'm gonna see which of these cameras works more consistently and from how far away on those things. So that's what I really want to test here. And then one other thing that's important is the Z63 only has animal eye tracking. That's the only setting you can choose that does both birds and animals. The Z9 has both bird and animal to choose from. So we're gonna try both on the Z9, see where it works, and then we'll try the Z63. So let's get started with the Z9. Let's start in bird eye tracking here. So we're gonna start with the little bird there, and you can see no problem picking up the eye, although as I move around it does switch to just head tracking, which is fine. You know, I'm gonna take a few photos as I go here just to make sure that I'm getting sharp photos out of these as well. And you can see with the puffin, we're getting a little bit of a mixed result here. Consistently staying head there, but not really getting eye tracking too much. If I go up this way, yeah, I still can't seem to get the eye tracking. We'll come back to our songbird here. And then it seems like initially it gets head, and then as I sort of reframe and move around, it will get eye, but then goes back to the head there. Okay, so let's stay right here and switch over to animal on this and see how that does. And I'm gonna say that actually looks better. I mean, I'm getting much more consistent eye tracking. Let's go check out our puffin here. Absolutely nailing the eye on that one. So this, yeah, look at that, right back to the eye. Right back to the eye on that with the animal eye tracking. So let's switch back to bird. Go back up here, and we're back to basically head tracking. And then with the puffin, we're doing pretty good again. We are getting eye up back to the head. So not as good with the bird tracking as the eye tracking for the Z9. Let's take a few steps back here. Okay, and we are still on bird here. We're gonna go to the puffin and doing great with that now from this distance. Maybe it was just a little large in the frame, odd, but okay. And then with this guy, we're getting no eye tracking with the little bird. We're probably about 15 feet away here, nothing too crazy. Let's go ahead and switch on over to animal eye tracking, back to our puffin, and puffin doing great, getting the eye tracking. The bee really likes it there. And then we'll go over to our little songbird. And look at that, we're actually getting head tracking. So, and there, it just got eye tracking. So again, I mean, look at the stickiness too, like really sticky. I'm shaking it all around there. It's staying right on that, and it's actually going down to eye. Let's do the same thing on the puffin. We've got the eye tracking, super sticky as I shake it around. We'll grab a few shots there. We'll grab a few shots there, make sure they're sharp. Let's go back to bird. Grab our puffin. It works great on the puffin. But then this little guy, I mean, I cannot get it to do eye tracking on that. So this is really fascinating. It's sort of indicating that animal eye tracking is better for birds on the Z9 based on this. So not sure what to think about that. Let's go back a little bit further here. So now I'm probably getting out into about the 20 feet range. So on bird tracking, it's staying with the bird. It's doing that consistently, but it is jumping around a bit. Let's see, our puffin should be great. There we go. Eye tracking, well, it did have, there we go. Eye tracking, we can get eye tracking. As I move around, if I leave the bird a little bit and then come back, yeah, it's doing really good. So that's on bird. Let's switch back to animal. Let's see how we do on our puffin here. So now we're starting to see a difference here. We're just getting head tracking, can't seem to get eye on the puffin. Let's see what our little bird does here. Look at that, eye tracking on that little bird. Like, that's smaller than the head there. It's definitely locked in on the eye. So this is fascinating. It doesn't want to get eye tracking on the puffin. Oh, there it goes. It finally did, but not as consistently. Let's go back to bird, and our puffin nails it. But our little bird can't even get head tracking on it. Can't even get head tracking yet. If I switch to animal on this, I'm actually getting like head, if not eye tracking. So look at that, it just got smaller. I mean, it's still mainly around the head, but still doing much better. And then our puffin, it just likes the head. Can't really consistently get it to do eye tracking there. I mean, what do you say on this? This is really tough. So let's do this. We're going to leave it on animal, and we'll see how far away we can get on the tiny bird, because that's something I think we tend to shoot a little bit more, like songbirds and stuff like that. So let's see. I mean, I would say I was still getting sort of head-eye tracking there consistently from that distance. And we're still getting it here. Look at this. This is great. And if we go over to our puffin, oh, look at that. Now we pick up eye again with the animal. Okay, this is weird. We'll go back a little bit further here. We're getting out into the 30, 35 foot range would be my guess. Let's see what we got here on the little guy. There we go, head tracking, sticking with it. Let me move around over to our puffin, eye tracking, no problem on the puffin. Back to our little guy. I think we have to move around a little bit for it to kind of recognize it, which is interesting, but yeah, we're still getting some head tracking on that, and then we get eye tracking, no problem. So that's with the animal eye. I would say we're probably about at our limit here. Let me go back just a little bit further and see what we're getting here on this little bird. Yeah, now I can't seem to get it to do. Let's move it around a bit. Nah, we've sort of lost it. So we'll come back in a few more feet here. There we go. All right, so we're getting it. We're getting the head eye tracking there. And then on the puffin, we got eye tracking, no problem. So this seems to be our distance with animal eye tracking for the Z9. All right, so we're gonna switch to bird eye tracking now. And let's see, we're getting nothing. We can get the bird, but we cannot get even head, let alone eye tracking on that little guy. If we go over to our puffin, no problem though, which is great. So here is our mark for animal eye tracking. Let's see how much further forward we have to come to get eye tracking on the little bird, because we know we can get the puffin back there. Not here. Just starting to barely get head tracking there, so not there. I mean, this is kind of crazy, guys. All the way in here now. All right, there we're getting some head. I still can't even seem to get it to pick up eye tracking there. I mean, this is kind of crazy. Let's go this close. There we go. I mean, that's head. Come on, give me some eye tracking. Nope, does not like this bird shape. I can tell you that right now. So let's switch back to animal and see. I mean, no problem. Eye tracking, absolutely no problem. So somehow the bird tracking does not see this fake bird as very much of a bird. If we go back to our puffin here, on the bird tracking, yeah, we can get the eye, no problem. So I'm gonna call it, we'll just say that mark back there is the most distance we can get out of the animal eye tracking on the Z9, which is going to be a match for the animal eye tracking on the Z63 as far as the settings go anyway. Really surprising about the bird versus animal. It seems like the bird tracking works better in some circumstances on the puffin at some distances, but consistently worse on the little bird. The animal eye tracking seems to work pretty damn good for everything, both birds at more distances. The last little thing is, let's go back to animal eye tracking and see how far away we can get on this puffin. All right, we are getting no problem eye tracking on this puffin from, we're pushing 50 feet. I can't really get much further away unless I start walking in the forest. So this is pretty consistent and good with the animal eye tracking. Let's see about our little guy. It's hard for it to even pick him up, but there we go. All right, so that's just more locking in on a specific thing. Anyway, let's switch back to bird real quick and see about the puffin from here. And look at that. There, it finally went to head, but we are getting more body and head. Whereas I think the animal eye tracking, I mean, look at that, right in on the eye. So again, the animal eye tracking winning over the bird eye tracking. So that is kind of, it's telling me something there, folks. It's telling me that I think I might start just leaving this in animal eye tracking on the Z9 versus putting it into the bird eye tracking. All right, so got the Z63 set up, animal eye tracking, that's our only option. So let's get started. We'll start really close here. I'm sure it'll do just fine. And there we go. If you move it around enough, you can get it to do eye tracking on this tiny bird. And then we got the puffin, no problem. So let's just jump right back to the same spot of the Z9. All right, back here at the same distance as the Z9. Let's see how this does. I would say basically the same. Yeah, head-eye tracking, no problem on that. Puffin's gonna be no issue. So we're getting kind of the same results here with the Z63. You can see again, it's very, very sticky. Made it jump a little bit there. Let's try the puffin. Absolutely locked in on that puffin. We'll do a few shots just to make sure everything's sharp at this distance. But yeah, we're getting consistent head tracking there. All right, let's take a couple of steps back. Kind of the same exact results as the Z9. Just 5 feet back, and it does not pick up the head and eye tracking. Come up here to the Z9, and then there we go. Head and eye tracking right there. I'm guessing if we come way back across the road, we can do just fine on the puffin again. Let's see. Yep, there we go. Eye tracking, no problem, nice and sticky. No issues there. Struggling to get focus on that little guy, but same thing. It just kind of locks in on the, basically whatever you're pointing at. Watch, I can get it to lock in on that branch over there a little bit. See that? Kind of. There we go. So I can do the same with the bird. Just getting it to lock in. But the puffin, it completely recognizes. You can see when I get anywhere near it, it starts to put the recognition box on that. If I do it with this tiny bird, it does not. And then if we come all the way back in here, where the Z9 worked, I'm guessing we will get the recognition box on our little bird. Yep, look at that. Right in there. It was doing it. There it is. So we can get it some, and then as we move around, there we go. We get the head-eye recognition, no problem on the puffin. So what are our final results? I'm gonna say in animal eye tracking, they're working basically the same, which makes sense, right? It seems like they probably brought the same settings, algorithms, whatever you want to call it, the same focus settings for the animal eye tracking over from the Z9 to the Z63, and they're working at the same distance, about the same consistency on that little bird. Everything works fine with the puffin. It's a bigger bird, more obvious, which is what I thought. Although there was a couple of times, as you saw with the Z9, that in bird eye tracking, at one specific distance, it didn't do as well as the animal eye tracking. Consistently, with both of these different types of birds across the board, I'm getting better results with that Z9 with the animal eye tracking. So I don't think either one's better than the other as far as the camera goes. I thought initially, like I said, in my experience of shooting, it felt like that Z63 wasn't as sticky, wasn't grabbing as consistently as the Z9. That does not seem to be the case. It really does not. So, and the other thing I've learned is I think I'm just gonna leave it on animal eye tracking for the Z9. Unless I'm really noticing it's not catching well for a specific bird, and then maybe I'll switch over at that point and try the bird eye tracking. But for the most part, I think I'm just gonna leave it in animal and go with that, because for both of these birds, that seemed to be more consistent. So I think my initial thoughts of the Z63 are a little bit busted, I would say, because it seems just as sticky when you move it around quick, and it's working at basically the same exact distance as the Z9. So that's great news for that Z63. There's still a few things about the Z63 I don't like as much, and I'll talk about that in a separate video. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this.